Welcome back to AeroLab Tech Talks. Today we've got a special guest. We have one of our field engineers, Matt Singbeil, and he's also been the guy who's been behind a lot of our social media pictures. Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and your involvement with the team?
So I started in cycling through mountain biking and worked at a bike shop for a number of years, but at the same time I was working on my engineering degree at the University of Calgary, where I'm actually working on completing my master's in fluid dynamic engineering. And then I met Chris Morton while I was working at the University of Calgary, and he got me involved with the AeroLab team testing out in the field, and from there it just kind of snowballed.
So you would, in some ways, we're converting you from a road cyclist to a triathlete.
A little bit.
Maybe, trying. Anyways, so we had goals. We were making use of our time, and we actually wanted to make you a faster rider overall. So I'd actually like you to talk about a little bit about the process, the equipment and stuff that we were changing, because you were new to a TT bike, which wouldn't be uncommon to somebody getting into triathlete.
Like Kelly mentioned, this was my first year ever on a dedicated TT bike trying to optimize my CDA. So coming from road bike background with mountain bike background, we got me used to riding in the aero bars. So we slowly lowered the front of the bike to see where my limit was with flexibility and comfort, still being able to kind of hit my power targets. So we actually got the front pretty low because I was flexible enough, and then we established a baseline test. So for that baseline, I was wearing like a tight-fitted jersey and shorts, as something I would race in with like standard road cycling socks and shoes, and an aero road helmet, but not by a TT helmet by any means. And we went out and did a few out and backs with the sensor in the morning, and I was able to establish a baseline CDA of about 0.239, which was pretty good as far as CDAs go for a newbie, if you will. And so from there, I wanted to try some different positions, because we essentially just dialed me in and got me comfortable and saw where we were at. So we actually tried putting me in a mantis position, which I found a little bit harder to ride because you're levered up a little bit higher and you're not able to control the front of the bike as well. But fortunately for me, it actually was slower as my CDA went up to 0.245.
Which is actually interesting, because everybody thinks the mantis position is the perfect one, and we've talked about this in a previous video if you haven't seen it, where not every body position, not every piece of equipment is across the board for everybody else. So after we kind of got your body position dialed in and comfortable with the TT bike, we started playing more with equipment and, again, suits and so forth. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I love playing with the equipment. It's the best part of it, because you get to like find all these new little things and nuances with your setup and get it really dialed in. But first thing had to go to make me more of a TTer was the road helmet. So we had to get a visor on there. So we opted for a Giro TT helmet, and that was actually a pretty substantial change, even with my standard road kit. Just changing the helmet, which makes perfect sense. It's hitting the wind. You actually it's the first point of separation on most riders. So dropping from my baseline, just adding the TT helmet, we went from a 0.239 to a 0.227, which is a pretty substantial change just for one piece of equipment. That's free watts, if you will. And then after that, we actually changed from a tight-fitting road jersey and everything to a skin suit, like a track certified skin suit with no pocket on the back. And we're able to see my CDA drop even further from 0.227 to 0.218, which is pretty fast.
Because you're an engineer, those numbers and an aerodynamicist is going, wow. But for the average person who's out there racing, what does that mean in watts?
Like I said, it's free power. So essentially I can not try any harder and go a little faster, or I can save a little bit of power. And so over a flat 40K TT going at 40 kilometers an hour, I would have saved myself 17 watts, which is essentially sweet spot to threshold. I can hold my sweet spot a lot longer.
Matt's an elite rider. Your average watt output when we have fun, so that people can correlate that. So, what watts when we're testing, what are your watt output normally?
For the short out and backs we're doing, I'm focusing on what I would do for a 40K TT, and my target for something like that would be between 270, 280.
So that's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
So that 17 watts is a substantial gain. kind to talk through the process a bit more on the Garmin head unit. So some of the things, you know, when we weighed you in and the Garmin like telling you to the whole process. How did you find that?
So the Garmin actually is really good because essentially when you tell the coach or fitter that you're ready to go, you're ready on your bike, you're standing there, you're not riding yet, and they say go, and they press a button and you get a beep and it says, oh, you know you just have to start getting up to speed. On the screen, all you can see is your speed, what the sensor tells you, and your power. So you need to know if you're hitting your target power and how fast you're going. But you very easily, you kind of get a feel for all those things. Those are things that you're used to as an athlete. So you get up to speed and then you hear a beep and you know that that second beep is now it's recording. You don't want to move around too much. You want to be in your position, focusing on exactly how you'd perform your TT. And you just focus on staying in that position, keeping the power going and riding forward until you hear another beep. When you hear that second beep, now you're in the turn state. So you can essentially sit up, hit your brakes, make sure it's safe to turn around because you don't want to, obviously you're doing out and backs on a road and you're in a TT position with the TT helmet on. You might not hear a car coming. So you can sit up, look back, make sure you're safe, and then turn around.
So no, that's a good point with that. One thing that was really interesting, and I know because we have evolved that Connect IQ app, one thing which we've had feedback from very experienced bike fitters is not showing the CDA. So if people are like, well, the head unit doesn't show CDA, we actually found through a lot of our testing, the problem was is the rider would sit there and try to look at the head unit, which is in a natural position, gets them out of position, especially if they're doing a helmet, that they're looking for that. So that's one of the reasons why the Connect IQ doesn't have showing real-time CDA overall. So that's great. We've done some awesome testing, right? We were in Houston, we were testing a lot of the Zip development products, we were on gravel there. We've done a lot of road testing here in development and so forth. What were some of the surprises that you thought would happen in one way? Again, we do that, we think something, but you ended up getting a different result.
The Mantas was interesting because even from a rider point of view, I've looked at it on the internet and tried to analyze what they're doing point of view, but even from an engineering point of view, I was wondering how this affects the separation of the flow over me. And so I tried it and we had conclusive evidence that it wasn't impacting it well. And we were able to repeat it multiple times and make sure that it wasn't just a one-off, that I tried this position that should be faster for some people, isn't fast for everyone, and we were able to conclusively say it wasn't faster for me.
So there's two things I want to kind of touch on here. One is, were you surprised with the skin suit differences, first off? Because we did do a skin suit to a full body suit to a standard kit. So were you quite surprised of the savings, I guess, would be it?
Yeah, even the tight-fitting road jersey and shorts I was wearing, if you took a profile of me and you took a silhouette of my profile and you had no idea what I was wearing, you wouldn't have been able to tell a difference between the skin suit and my road jersey. So it just shows to show how important the surface of what actually hitting the wind does for the rider and comfort while you're riding too. The skin suits just stay where they need to be, so you can probably focus on that power for the hour duration you're out there.
So the other one, which is always the outlier that everybody's talking about or trying to learn about, is CRR. We spent a lot of time running through a whole slew of different tire pressures, tire widths. It was an extensive study. Was there anything surprising that you noticed there? Was at points you were thinking, I should be slower under this pressure, but I'm actually faster or as fast?
Well, actually, our testing in Houston was the biggest thing, where we would lower the pressure, and we were on a pretty bumpy road, all things considered. And we keep lowering the pressure, and I didn't think it could be any faster. It was spongy, and it was the lowest CRR we had all day. So it was definitely the fastest pressure we ran.
And I remember that, and that road was interesting. So when we were in Houston, after we were done, we were warned about alligators. Now, I want to ask, are you afraid of dinosaurs? We do live in an area where there's a lot of excavation for that. Are you afraid of dinosaurs? Well,
after our repeat test, we were able to get my really low CDA a second time again out on the road. I actually was chased by a dinosaur out on just an Alberta road in Springbank. So yeah, I'm kind of afraid after that.
Well, was he a carnivore based or was he like a plant eater?
Well, it's hard to tell. He didn't catch me. I was going too fast, but.
So thank God we actually made you faster as a rider, because otherwise you could have been dinner for somebody.
Well, I'm pretty sure at a CDA of 0.24 he would have caught me.
Matt, thank you very much. That was awesome. It gives people an insight of really what's happening, who's involved in our team, as well as what people can get out of what's happening. So if you like this video, if you want to see other videos we want to do, definitely like us, follow us, and give any recommendations in the notes below. Thank you very much, and remember, every walk counts. Thanks, man. No problem. Cheers.
What do you think? CDA of 0.5?
0.5, yeah, I should do a CDA test.